Back to our breaking news. The ceasefire between Israel and Iran appears to be holding for now, while President Trump spends his night in the Netherlands for the NATO summit just hours after announcing that deal. But he spent his morning taking shots at Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as calls for his impeachment over striking Iran grow louder over on Capitol Hill. Today, Trump dared AOC and her Democratic friends to impeach him again, going full-on Clint Eastwood, saying, "Make my day." AOC hit back, accusing the president of illegally bombing Iran and dragging the U.S. into war. As we were discussing in the break, this idea that the president never goes to Congress, frankly, to authorize strikes or authorize war has spanned.
Right.
Virtually no precedent.
Right.
But let me just play, actually, this
lifetime.
is House Speaker Mike Johnson, who is arguing that the congressional power here, the War Powers Act, actually, that's the part that's unconstitutional.
Many respected constitutional experts argue that the War Powers Act is itself unconstitutional. I'm persuaded by that argument. They think it's a violation of the Article 2 powers of the Commander-in-Chief. I think that's right.
Well, he is the Speaker of the House, the legislative branch.
I think the way it was supposed to play out by the Founding Fathers was Congress determines if there's going to be a war, and then the president, as the commander-in-chief, then he or she takes over.
So you think Mike Johnson's wrong about
that?
So
I think that's what the Alexander Hamilton and the Founding Fathers want. Alexander Hamilton wrote in the Federalist Papers that unlike a king who could declare war on his own, the President of the United States can't do that. Congress has to do that. But the way we've got, and I do believe George W. Bush did go to Congress regarding Afghanistan, but the way they get around it, President Clinton and many others, is when President Clinton went to Haiti, is like, look, I'm not starting a war. I'm just going in to fix a couple of things. It's a little bit of self-defense. It's in the national best interest. And here, it's so minimal. It's just like we win, we bomb, that's it. We're done.
It might be right now, but I think therein lies the rub. Is that when you start something, I've said this every night this week. You start dropping bombs, you don't know that it's going to end with those bombs.
And you begin with the debate of that depends on what the definition of war is. Okay,
Yeah,
and so
correct.
okay, but listen. I think that's part of the reason why Congress has such low approval ratings, because, it depends on what team is in charge and what they say. And so in our lifetime, there's been at least a dozen military actions by Democrat and Republican Congress presidents where they don't go to Congress. And if you're a Republican and it's a Republican president, then it's A-OK. If you're a Democrat and it's a Democratic president, then it's A-OK. If it's the opposite, then you come off looking inconsistent and like a hypocrite partisan. But let me also say this. I think it is insane and ridiculous that the President of the United States, in the middle of this international incident, in the middle of this war, as he is negotiating a ceasefire, en route to a NATO meeting from Air Force One, is waging a war of words and tweets against a Democrat congresswoman from New York who's not even in a leadership position. So, I mean, dude, how can we possibly have any confidence on this child with a Twitter feed who can't even control his impulses?
Well, they're both
Yeah, but one of them is president of the United States. The other one is not.
Go ahead.
I mean, you talked about the fact that the majority of the American people are opposed to this. And I think I am among them, and I speak for them in some ways. Because I think that there used to be a saying that the United States should no longer be the world's policeman. And, Dwight David Eisenhower had his low moment, hired the Dulles brothers, not a fan. But at his high moment, at the end of his presidency, he warned about the military-industrial complex, that there would be endless wars because there was endless profit to be made. We have had military action after action after action and have not declared war against another country we've bombed since World War II. And yet the American people are becoming exhausted by this idea that at any president's whim, we are bombing this country and then we're bombing that country. We're going to fix a little thing here in Haiti. We're going to tweak a little thing there. We're going to pick governments for countries that didn't ask us to do it. We're going to remove and depose and change governments and do regime change. The American people are exhausted of this. There is so much more that we could do with the precious funds the American people, the taxpayers, give to the government. How about helping to make people's lives more affordable? How about making people's lives better?
Okay,
and
Donald
stop
Trump
with the
ran
endless
on that.
wars.
Donald Trump ran,
He
on,
ran
that,
on that.
and he is now in a way walking away from it in
so
part.
did Woodrow Wilson and
he
FDR. Joy is
He's
right that President Eisenhower warned against the military-industrial complex. President Eisenhower also believed in the essential role of American leadership. That was why he was president, because of his leadership in World War II when America had to step in to save the world. So America has this role. You may not like it, but we have lived since 1945 in the greatest time of peace, prosperity, and wealth creation and innovation in all of human history, thanks in large part to American leadership. There are many, many frustrations that many people like myself have. We have had all kinds of interventions that have been ill-advised and downright wrong. But America does have this role. If you want to say we want to live in this democratic world that you're kind of imagining, that is a much more dangerous world than
Can I ask you a question, guys? I assume you were in favor of the Iraq War. How did we make? Okay, all right. We keep on going in and making the decision in our arrogance as to what governments people should have, what they do. But bottom line,
and sometimes there are worse
and
decisions.
you are saying that you feel that there is a strong moral case for us using our leadership in the world to simply bomb countries that have not attacked us, and that when we do that, it's justified. In 1979, you're taking us back to 1979. The bottom line is, Iran was without an Iran nuclear agreement since the Obama administration.
While they had that agreement, they were funding all of these proxies that were attacking us and killing us.
Okay,
you think a piece of paper is going to stop fanatical mullahs who want to be murder Americans to stop that? A piece of paper will never do it.
The bottom line is Iran would not be led by fanatical mullahs had the United States not imposed the Shah of Iran upon them.
That is
the United States intervention is what caused that. I am not.
Let me just ask you, or maybe make a point. Donald Trump, 14 days ago, wanted a deal with Iran. He wanted
one Friday.
He wanted a piece of paper because I think he understands. He did the Abraham Accords. He understands the power of making a deal. So I don't know that the idea of a deal with Iran is just a piece of paper. Trump wants it. He would prefer that because it's less messy than dropping bombs, which he knows is unpopular.
Well, let's go back to what Chuck Schumer said a good deal would be. Back when he opposed Obama's silly deal,
I know, but I'm talking about Donald Trump.
Hang on, though.
Yeah.
Chuck Schumer said we needed a deal where Americans could inspect Iranian facilities at any time with no notice, as often as possible. That's the kind of deal Donald Trump wants.
But how do you get there but for diplomacy? That's my point. You have to get to the table. And so at the end of the day, the bombs are a delay, but it does not resolve the problem.
Well,
I think
has been clear that he's willing.
Now, America's in a stronger diplomatic position now across the board than we were last week. And so right now we did drop these bombs, we degraded the nuclear, America's in a stronger position, diplomacy is advanced, but the possibility of an agreement with Saudi Arabia is increased. This so far, I mean, I'm a Democrat. There are all kinds of things where I critique vocally President Trump, but so far this is a pretty big win for the United States and for certainly for the democratic countries.
All right, we got to leave it there for that conversation. Jamie Metzl, thank you very much. It's always interesting at this table when people from different parties actually agree with each other. But breaking news tonight, a Democratic socialist is leading Andrew Cuomo in the New York City mayoral primary in a race that could very well be a sign of where the Democratic Party is heading. Another special guest is going to join us in our fifth seat.